Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Christopher Smith, and as part of the continuation of our capstone project, we are here tonight to give an update to our situation. So without further ado, let me begin. Mayor, Police Chief, Fire Chief, good evening. I'd like to give you a situational update into the events that have occurred over the past week. We continue to face an unrelenting winter storm. Many of our citizens are without power, as Velco has reported a massive breakdown in our power grid. More details are forthcoming, and I'll get to that here in a minute. Both the police and the fire departments are reporting several issues, from break-ins to busted pipes. The issue of mandatory evacuations for those who are at most at risk has been met with stiff resistance from some of our citizens. Complicating this matter is the governor's call-up of nearly 3,000 National Guardsmen, 1,200 of which will be deployed into our immediate area. Public health officials are growing more concerned about children and elderly as this storm continues. As we look at weather, gentlemen, weather is doing us no favors. The National Weather Service has issued an extreme weather alert. Temperatures are expected to drop significantly, well below the normal range. The forecast calls for a low of 10 degrees for the next 5 days, with wind chills expected to be below that as we face a 15-kilometer-per-hour wind carrying Arctic air. The extended forecast also shows snow at a 4 the next 5 days. There's been no estimate on how much snow to expect as of right now. Further information will be made available when weather models are updated. Currently, the governor has deployed nearly 3,000 National Guardsmen throughout the entire state. The initial deployment to Burlington and the greater area will be at 1,200. We are currently identifying priorities and tasks for these troops. Distribution points for additional services and material are being identified to distribute it to communities and citizens who are in desperate need. Further, we are conducting reconnaissance throughout areas to establish long-term winter shelters for victims of this disaster. As we look at how this weather has impacted our power grid, we have over 575,000 people without power right now. There remains no foreseeable timeline to full restoration. I'll say that again. There is no foreseeable timeline to return to full power. We have seen over 1,000 electrical pylons destroyed, 130 medium kilowatt transformers destroyed, 60 medium pylons for the 315 kilovolt transformers destroyed, 80 pylons for the 120 kilowatt transformers destroyed, and 25,000 transmission poles destroyed. This is significant, and recovery from this could take weeks, if not months. The fire department is reporting several cases of accidental fires provoked by inappropriate alternative heating systems, these same systems that we have been talking about over the last couple of weeks in both press releases and mitigation reports. Also, as mentioned earlier, we are facing bursting pipes in several buildings, which is causing flooding. Winterization activities in and around these abandoned buildings and even in residential areas have failed. We also have the improper use of power supplies and gasoline-operated generators, causing secondary effects such as carbon monoxide poisoning. They're being used too close to houses, and are also items of theft, which I will talk about more when discussing police activity. Local citizens, primarily those with pets, have met evacuation efforts with some resistance, in addition to those who are concerned with the amount of looting that is occurring in and around our area. Several break-ins have been reported. Further, in response to a perceived lack of effort, groups of citizens are asking for more action at local town hall meetings. The situation is becoming dire as people are beginning to report the theft of these generators, and as local grocery stores are reporting a lack of services, a lack of food, and a lack of ability to provide. Officers are requesting help, and the National Guardsmen may be able to help them, but we are concerned about the blurred lines of authority and legal issues. These legal issues are currently being worked through, and a worksheet will be briefed later on today. Turning to health officials, 10 people, 10 of our citizens, have died from hypothermia, fire, and carbon monoxide poisoning since the beginning of this ice storm. 30 people are currently hospitalized with ice-related injuries, such as broken legs, hips, and arms. Health officials expect that with the increased use of secondary means of power and heating, that these injuries and possibly even casualties will continue to increase. As we talk about public relations, several media outlets have begun to criticize our efforts. The primary criticism is regards to our ability to effectively communicate the who, the what, the where, and the when. We're also being questioned on our ability to properly mitigate the damage of this storm. Which leads me to an update on our mutual aid agreement. We drafted and it was approved a mutual aid agreement within state and from surrounding states to aid in our response to this disaster. I'm going to hit some highlights here of some of the aid that was requested. We asked for plows and trucks to fight this ice storm. 3 additional units with salt and sand spreaders were requested to augment our depleted fleet. Tow trucks were requested to aid in clearing the roadways so that our plow trucks could focus on clearing roads. We asked that generators be provided as well, and overhead wire machines and overhead tension machines to aid Velco in reestablishing power. Further, we thought outside the box and asked that pavement breakers be used to break the ice and clear the roadways. The duration of the agreement was to go for roughly 3 weeks, or 378 hours of mutual aid. The estimated cost of this agreement approached $561,000. There are still several issues in which we are working on in regards to this agreement, specifically workers' compensation, liability, and immunity as it pertains to their actions in and outside of our city, and also the National Incident Management System. This concludes our update, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, do I have any questions?